Welcome to Southwest Magazine. I'm Natalie Sturgeon. My guest today is Emily Al-Harazi, the owner of Lost in the Plot. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Let's start with a little bit about yourself and sort of what you're doing.
So Lost in the Plot Bookshop is a small business here in the, I'm from St. John area, but we sell things to the surrounding cities as well. And basically we're a bookshop selling handmade book accessories as well as surprise books for adults and kids. And we're hoping to expand into secondhand books in the near future too.
How did your love of books start? Where did that come from?
So I was never a reader as a kid. I was one of those kids who refused to read unless it was for school. And then I went to university and had to read textbooks and those things. So it really didn't hit me until the pandemic happened, when I just needed, a little bit of an escape from the reality that we were facing. And there was always just so much going on during that time. So I started by picking up a thriller at a local thrift store, and I just loved it so much that it ended up turning into something so much bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting that you mentioned the pandemic part of things, because I find when I'm thinking about books or wanting to get away from maybe my life per se, I turn to a book. And so I guess it would have been the same for you. What about books helped you kind of find that escape?
I think it was mostly the world building of books and the characters, right? Like, as I started reading more and more, I started to appreciate the writing itself, but I felt like I found like friends in books, I guess, or enemies, depending on the book, I guess. But overall, I think it was just, again, a matter of that escapism of just really diving into someone else's story and then appreciating what the author made out of that, I guess.
Right. Are there particular genres that you're attracted to more than others?
So it started with the thrillers and mysteries for sure, but I think over time it turned into like romances and fantasies. I think fantasies are what I'm really into right now. Again, because of that world building, I just have such an appreciation for what the authors can do and how they come up with these amazing ideas. So it really depends on the season, I feel like, too, though, right? Like, I love romances on a nice day when I can go to the beach, or and then fantasies are really nice and cozy in the winter. But really, it's, I guess, everything. I don't read a lot of nonfiction. That's about it.
And so talk to me about Lost in the Plot. How did you get there? What was the catalyst for that?
So again, it kind of started during COVID. In September of 2021, I decided I wanted to start a book blog, and I wanted to start a virtual book club because we couldn't go out. And so my now fiance, but boyfriend at the time, actually was the one who came up with the name. It was out of nowhere, and I just felt like it fit super well. And at that point, it was never my idea to actually make this into something bigger. It was more of just like a passion project, I guess. But from there, essentially, I started the book blog. I made, I think it was lostintheplotbookclub.com at the time, and I would just write different articles about books that I had read or ways that you can get into reading, that sort of thing. And then with the book club, again, it was just a way for me to kind of create that community of readers, something that I just started becoming super passionate about. And then from there, I was bored at home and I made my first bookmark. And I actually hand painted them on really thin pieces of paper and then laminated them, and I thought they were incredible at the time. And they were, looking back, I think, really nostalgic for me to see where how far I've come, I guess. But that's how it all started. And then from there, I started selling them on Etsy because I was told, that's like the best place to start your business, right? When you don't know what you're doing. And then from there, it went into the blind date books, the surprise books, and then stickers and everything from there.
And so talk to me about the process of creating your stickers, your handcrafted bookmarks. Mm-hmm. That's what talk to me about that process.
Yeah, so for the bookmarks, it's always been probably my favorite thing that I make, honestly. Now a lot of them are digital designs. I don't really do the hand-painted ones as much. They're very time-consuming. So for the digital designs, it's nice that I can just pop on a TV show and get creative on my iPad. And I use the app Procreate to make a lot of my items, and then from there I basically transfer them onto my computer at a high resolution and not to get all technical, but high resolution, and then I will print them off on my in my printer and cut them, laminate them, hole punch them, add the tassel. It's a process, and it is something I do all by myself. But it's crazy knowing that I started with like 4 designs and now we have almost like 30 designs. So that's basically the process. I would say it takes about 15 minutes per bookmark after the design process, of course. But yeah, it's really fun.
What are your favorite ones to design?
I really enjoy doing the acrylic bookmarks that we came out with, probably the most recently. I can show, I don't know if they'll show up, but the acrylic bookmarks are essentially like a hard acrylic or plastic, and then we use vinyl on the acrylic to kind of show the design. So they're relatively simple designs, but also really fun. We have like Gilmore Girl stuff, mushrooms, all of that. So I think that those are probably actually the most time consuming, and maybe that's why I like them the most, because I feel like I accomplished something greater. But the laminate ones are also really fun because they're the ones I make the digital design of. So this is like a little Taylor Swift one with all of the books being albums, and so I think honestly that Taylor Swift bookmark was probably my favorite to make. It's really colorful and fun, and that's kind of what we do in our business, or my business. I'm so used to being like we because I do work with my fiance and mom a lot on things, but small businesses tend to do that.
Yes, and I want to talk a little bit about these blind date with a book. I've purchased a blind date with a book, so and I actually was very pleasantly surprised by the one that I got. I picked up a thriller because I'm also a fan of thrillers.
Amazing.
So talk to me the process of picking the book, deciding what goes on the front cover, and sort of what you've noticed people are saying about blind date with a book.
Yeah. So for my blind dates, originally they started just being wrapped like a normal present, but I decided I really wanted to do something a little bit different. So I have this little pocket in the front where I can stick my tea bag in, and I really wanted this to be more of an experience than just a wrapped book, if that makes sense. So it has the sticker, it has the tea bag, you can open it up, have a nice warm beverage, and whatever book you get. And so essentially, I either choose books that I've already read myself or friends or family have read, and they highly recommend it. And if it's not something that I know I've read or someone else has read, I try to find things that have relatively good reviews. But overall, I know that like books are so dependent on the person, right? So we have so many genres and varieties of books for kids and adults. And I just really try and have 3 to 4 hints on what the book's about, but as vague as possible, so you're not judging it too much based on its contents, I guess. That's kind of the point, right? And then I also recently started adding the page count because I know that matters to some people. Yeah, and then just little details on it I think really add and make people like appreciate it more as like art on top of getting a book, right? So yeah.
What have been for you the most significant challenges to operating a business, more in general, not specific to books, but just more in general?
I think the hardest part for me, and this isn't necessarily even super business related, but it's the idea of saying no to more things. It could be a personal thing as well, but I, as someone who runs this business pretty well by myself, I want it to grow and I want it to reach as many people in our community as possible. And I have a hard time saying no to projects, to opportunities. And I don't think that's a bad thing either, but I think that the biggest challenge I have is just giving myself a little bit more grace and a little bit more time to rest when needed, so that my creativity can like come back and run at full speed again, I guess, because I think a lot of people these days are like that. They tend to burn themselves out a little bit with what they're doing. So that's something I've been learning like every day, is just basically trying to ask for help and give myself more grace on, saying no to things and saying yes when the time is right, I guess.
Right. And I guess in terms of I feel like there's been a bit of resurgence in books. I mean, when I sign on to social media, there's always a conversation about a book or something that I've read. How do you contend with that need and desire for content and for the things that you're making, with a balancing saying no to things that maybe you can't handle or don't want to handle, for that matter?
Yeah, I think I kind of came to the conclusion, again, as someone who runs this business alone, that like I can't do everything all the time. So I know that there are other people in our city and surrounding areas that do things that are similar, and I support that, and I support them doing it, because I think there's room for all of us to be doing it, right? And I think that more and more people since COVID have been wanting to read, pick up books, try it. It's almost become like a cool thing to do, and it is. So I think that I've basically learned, I don't need to be posting 3 times a week, or 3 days a week. No, 3 times a day, sorry. And I don't necessarily need to be in competition with anyone to make it my own and make it special and make people interested in what we do and what we sell. I think it shows in the quality of the content that we make and the products, as opposed to like how often we show up, I guess, if that makes any sense. We're on like Instagram all the time. I post on my stories pretty frequently, I would say almost every day. But yeah, with regards to content, it can definitely be hard. You want to do the most and show up every single day, but you have to show up for yourself too, right? So
do you think it's become more challenging because there is an expectation that with a business these days, content is kind of something that's expected to also naturally flow?
Yeah, I do find it somewhat difficult sometimes to not disassociate. Like they're not the same, but it's hard not to think they kind of are when you're showing your products online. So that's why we did come out with our new website, lostintheplotbookshop.com, because I think having that little place on the internet that's ours, where people can just always see content, is, obviously from a business perspective, a really good idea, but also for marketing, like people can go there and see what we're all about, see who we are, and see our products, so that social media doesn't have to be the place we do it every single day.
And so the website is fairly new, but you've been doing the market circuit, I think, for a little while. Can you talk to me about what it takes to go to a market? I've seen your videos of preparing to go. What goes into going to a market?
Yeah, I think markets are probably one of my favorite things we do, because it gives me a reason to go out with my family too. It's something they love coming along and helping me with. So we started at the Queen Square Farmers Market back in October of 2023. We did the last market of the season then, and then after that we've been doing it every season, like bi-weekly, as well as other markets. So right now we're doing the Cedar Crest Winter Market, and we've done just a ton of different holiday markets, fall markets, the Books by the Bay Book Fair. There's so many. But basically the process is, depending on how many weeks there are in between, that's when I'm working my hardest and getting all of the product out. And once we're at the markets, it's a lot of setup, right? So we're setting up tables, we're setting up all of the products displayed in a way that I find appealing for the customers. It's shoppable, it's fun, it's colorful, and then for the rest of the day, we're just chatting with our community and explaining the product and basically talking about this too, like how we got to where we are. People really like to hear the origin story of businesses, but it's a lot of work and it's a lot of heavy lifting every single market. The tables and canopies and all of those things are not light. So
you think people understand how much goes into kind of getting something like this off the ground?
I think you either need to be close with someone who does it, or you need to do it yourself to really understand. Like, especially for me, I work two part-time jobs, and at a point I was working a full-time job, a part-time job, and this. And this I would consider at least a part-time job as well, if not a full-time job. So for me right now, I'm basically working 2 full-time jobs if you combine it all, and that's a lot that I don't think people really see a lot of. I don't talk about it too often because that's not the point of the business. But it's definitely something that, unless you're in it, I don't think people really understand. And that's okay. I mean, I'm choosing to do this, so I'm more than happy to do it.
What have you noticed in terms of people's desire for books? I've talked to Fable Fern a couple of times, and they're a very affordable. What have you noticed in people's appetite for books? And do you think people gravitate towards Lost in the Plot and some of those other organizations because of the affordability and the uniqueness of what you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of small businesses, in order to get that profit, have to make their prices higher, right? It depends on what you sell. Like, obviously, if you're an artist, that takes so much time and effort to make a beautiful piece of art. So, like, you have to sell it at a very high price. But I really enjoy our business, and I love what Fable Fern is doing as well, because we're taking secondhand books and bookmarks, which are always relatively affordable products, and just continuously making new designs for people who like to collect. I know, like, my stickers and my bookmarks are things people collect. I had someone literally order one of each of my stickers once, and they just keep coming back for more. It's great. But yeah, I think that books, I was talking to a friend about this yesterday, actually. They're a great hobby where even a brand new book at $25 or something, it takes people at least 4 or 5 hours to read a book most of the time. That amount of time for you to read it, in my opinion, is worth, the $25 when you get that experience and that escapism that we talked about. So then having the secondhand books, we are hoping to expand to secondhand books in the near future in May, I think. And none of them are going to be over $15. That's something that we pride ourselves on, is we want to make sure our products are affordable but still high quality. So.
Right, and I think we think a lot about the public library and loaning books, and so affordability is a great aspect to it. What's next for you? I know the website's just launched, but what's next for you?
Yeah, so we're really focusing on that website piece right now. I think most of our sales do come from local or markets, and then we've had a few sales on there, which is great. So thank you to everyone who's been supporting. And our next basically goal is in May of 2025. Once the Queen Square Farmers Market starts again, we're going to start selling our secondhand books. So we'll have little mass paperbacks all the way to hardcovers, ranging from $5 to $15 for people to buy. So not all of our books will be surprise books anymore. We'll just have open covers for you to shop, and I think that was the next step, because our overarching goal is to eventually open a bookstore. So give us 5 or 10 years and we'll get there. It's a long process to get there, but that's our goal, is to eventually have a storefront where we sell all of our handmade book accessories that would never go away. That's something I'm very passionate about, but then also the secondhand books and the blind date books.
Well, and you heard it here first. She's going to open a bookstore. I'm going to hold her to that. And I wondered, is there anything that you've accomplished with this business that you're most proud of? Is there something significant to you that you're most proud of?
I think, aside from the evolution of our products in general and constantly trying to improve them and be almost as if something you would see, at an Indigo, for example, but still having that small business flair. Aside from that, I think I'm just the most proud of the evolution of how I've handled the business in general. Like, again, asking for help more. I've definitely noticed myself doing that in the last year. I don't think a business can grow without help. You can't do it all on your own. So I think as I've grown more as a person, it's made me a better business owner. And it's also just, I think, being a part of the community more, helping with the silent book clubs in St. John, and doing all of these markets. I think just celebrating books with people has been something that I'm proud of, because I found such a passion in them. So
talk to me about the process of making the stickers. I have a few of your stickers. So what does that process look like?
Yeah, so similarly to the bookmarks, we make them digitally. So I use the app Procreate to do those as well. And I always get my inspiration, from Pinterest. I think most people do, for, simple designs, and then I kind of grow them from there. So I will create them digitally on Procreate, and then at first I was actually buying the vinyl sticker paper, the laminate to go on top, doing everything by hand, including cutting them. And I noticed as of last year that was just far too hard to do, especially for one person, especially when you want them to be, specific, really intricate designs in these types of things. So in December of 2023, my fiance got me a Cricut, which was something I was really wanting to get for myself, but it's just one of those things, you get stubborn and you don't want to buy it for yourself. So I was really thankful that him and my mom bought that for me, and that actually helped so much just creating the stickers. I would say it dropped the time it took to make them in like half, or maybe even more. So that's kind of the process of how I make the stickers, and then we've been packaging them in these little plastic slips with our logo, our website, our Instagram, all of those things, so that it's just kind of nicer to the eye. I guess it's displayed better for markets and stuff. And I think at the end of the day, we might actually change this just to be loose on its own. We're trying to innovate and change things up. And I also really try and pride myself on sustainability. So a lot of the obviously, all of our products for the books are secondhand, which is something that we always do. It's either secondhand or I bought it, read it, and use the books that I've already read. But all of the materials we use, I try and find eco-friendly. And so that's why we might eventually take them out of the plastic bags. For now, I think it's a good protector, but might not always be necessary. So like I said, we're just trying to evolve and try things out.
Right. I mean, it must be an ever evolving process to be so nimble on your feet when it comes to a business like this.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, and hopefully we might be able to see you this summer at the St. Andrews Market.
I would love that, hopefully.
My guest today has been Emily Al-Harazi, the owner of Lost in the Plot. I'm Natalie Sturgeon, and thanks for watching Southwest Magazine.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO Television.